Did you know that struggling to meet financial obligations for your child could lead to legal trouble? In this video, we take you on an emotional journey of Joseph Ndungu, a man who found himself behind bars after his child's mother reported him to the police for not stepping up to his responsibilities. What started as a family dispute quickly escalated into a court case, eventually leading to his imprisonment. But that wasn't the end. It was behind those prison walls that Joseph met Madam Florence Gachicho from the Legal Resources Foundation, who, through the alternative justice system process, played a pivotal role in his release. But how did he navigate the challenges of prison life? What sacrifices did his family make to secure his freedom? And most importantly, how did this experience change his life and his relationship with his children? This is the gripping story of Joseph Ndungu.
My name is Joseph Ndungu and I come from Kambila Moto. I am married and have 2 children. I was previously employed, but in 2020 my employment came to an end due to the impacts of the coronavirus. I used to work in Thika, and once my job ended, I had no choice but to return to my home. The situation was very tough, and I found myself struggling to make ends meet. As a result, I began in various hustles to get by. In my search for school fees, I took on several jobs. Before I got married, I had an affair with a woman, and we had a child together. I made an effort to support her financially, but when I returned home, the financial strain increased significantly. During this period, I would hustle and earn around Kenya shillings 300 a day. Through sometimes, I would make only this amount a couple of times a week, depending on the opportunities available. With this limited income, I attempted to manage the cost of school fees and other household expenses, but it was an ongoing struggle. Despite my best efforts, it was challenging to keep up with all the financial demands. My children completed class 8, passed the exams, and enrolled in secondary school this year. However, as the school year began, it became even harder to find work, and securing a job was extremely difficult. When my child started secondary school, I was called upon to provide the necessary school fees, but I was unable to meet this obligation. My inability to pay led the mother of my children to report me to the police, and I was subsequently summoned to appear in court. The legal process was prolonged and took 8 months, starting from January until now, with no resolution in sight. I was detained and later transferred to remand.
My name is Grace Wanjiko. I'm Joseph Ndungu's sister. Regarding Ndungu's case, I didn't know about it at first. I live in Nairobi, but I'm married and currently residing here in Shauri. When he was arrested, he initially hid from me. I only found out later after he had already spent 5 days in custody. At the time, I was dealing with some work matters, so I decided to wait until my daughter finished school before coming. I arrived on Sunday, and Ndungu's case was on Tuesday. Let me take you back a bit. How did you find out? Did a neighbor tell you? I was informed by my elder sister. She called and asked if I had anything, and I said no. That's when she told me that Ndungu has been arrested. I asked her about the case because I had never heard of it before. By the way, neither I nor his wife knew anything about this case. I heard that he had a child, but I had never seen the child. I knew the woman involved, but I couldn't remember her face since I didn't visit frequently. You know, when you're married, you only come for 2 or 3 days and then leave again.
During my time in remand, particularly in the first and second weeks, I had the opportunity to meet Madam Florence Gachicho. She introduced me to the support that she provides to the prisoners.
In brief, how did you meet Madam Gachicho?
We met at the prison. Madam Gachicho often visits the inmates, listens to their problems, and helps find solutions. Some cases she could resolve, while in others she would offer advice on how to handle court proceedings. Many people end up in trouble simply because they don't know their rights on legal process. She would ask about your case, explain it to you, and give you guidance. Sometimes you go to court and don't even know how to answer the questions they ask you. But she helped us with that, telling us how to respond to different questions. That's how we met. She came to court for the first time and I saw her, but I didn't want to discuss my case. I was still trying to hide it. She asked those with ongoing cases to stand, but I didn't stand at first. She helped the others with their cases and then left. About a week later, she returned, and a prison officer told me, "Knowing your case is tough. Let me find someone to help you." That's how I got introduced to Madam Florence Gachicho. I explained my situation to her, and she told me that there was a way she could help. She asked me for the contact information of the person who had pressed charges, the mother of the child. I gave her the number, and she called and spoke to her. Later, Madam Gachicho came to see me, again at remand, explained my case, and told me I needed to pay a certain amount. She encouraged me to figure out how to make payments or negotiate a payment plan. I was reluctant at first because the amount plan seemed too high, but she explained that you can pay little by little as long as you come to an agreement.
How much was it?
It was for a whole year's school fees, totaling to 40,500 shillings. I felt overwhelmed because I was only earning about 300 shillings a day, and 40,000 seemed impossible to raise. I even thought about pulling the child out of that expensive school and moving him to a day school, where I could pay around 1,500 shillings per term. That would total to 10,000 for the whole year, something I felt I could manage. So we talked and she negotiated on my behalf. I looked around the house, found a few things that I could sell and managed to raise a small amount. I paid a bit, and the next day, after we reached an agreement, we went to court. Though I was released, we were still in the process of figuring out the remaining amount.
So while you were selling the household items, you were still in prison.
Yes, I was still in prison.
And who was handling the selling of the items?
While I was in prison, I communicated with my sisters and brother who came to visit me. I would tell them about certain things at home that they could sell, so they would take care of that. They would bring me some money which I would then present in court as part of the payment plan.
My brother Joseph Ndungu had never been arrested or detained before. This was a completely new and distressing situation for us. I felt the need to understand what was happening, so I made a call and traveled to visit him. Upon my arrival on Monday, he explained everything to me. I asked him why he had been silent all this time, and he said he thought things would eventually sort themselves out. We began looking for ways to raise money because schools were closed and everyone had their own struggles. His wife decided to sell their hens and chickens, which brought in 4,000 Kenya shillings. However, he was supposed to provide 6,700 Kenya shillings for school fees. He had been helping the woman he had an affair with when he was employed, but after losing his job, it became a struggle. The woman took advantage of this by reporting him. It seems like she was influenced to act this way. She insisted that the child should join Form 1, and when we discussed this, my brother felt that a day school would be more affordable than a boarding school. Despite his objections, the child was enrolled in a boarding school. My brother told her he wouldn't be able to manage the fees, but the situation continued.
Even for him to appear in court, he insisted that he wanted the child in a day school because his own children are in day schools and are not receiving quality education. You know, men often don't open up as easily as women. My brother is usually quiet, and while you can tell he's struggling, he finds it hard to express himself. Managing his own 2 children is already difficult, and adding this issue with the additional child has made it even more challenging. When I arrived, we met Madam Florence Gachicho on the same Monday. She asked who I was visiting, and I didn't know she had already been in contact with him. My brother was avoiding the topic, so she asked me his name. Madam Gachicho is well known in the prison, and I told her that Joseph is very reserved and takes time to open up. She managed to get him to talk and share his story. Madam Gachicho also contacted the mother of Joseph's child. I didn't know her well until Tuesday. I spoke with her and advised her to be patient, as even if Joseph were jailed, he wouldn't be able to pay anything because he struggles to provide for himself and his family. Their struggles barely cover home expenses, and with rising costs, managing even basic needs is challenging. I told the mother of the child that arresting Joseph wouldn't benefit anyone. He has no assets to sell and is struggling to provide for his family. Arresting him will only cause more distress. I asked her what she hoped to achieve by jailing Joseph. If he could only come up with 5 shillings, will that help? She said it would be acceptable, but the amount he owed was 2,700 Kenya shillings, which he was supposed to bring to court after 3 weeks. Given that he was detained, where will he find the money?
How long did you spend in prison?
I spent 1 month in the cell, but after meeting with Madam Gachicho, I was released after just 1 day.
Now that you've sold everything and raised the cash, how was the whole process?
I sold everything and managed to raise 4,000 shillings, which helped me get released from prison. However, I still haven't been able to pay the full amount of the school fees.
So you still owe some money?
Yes, I still owe some money.
How was life in prison during those few months?
Life in prison is hard.
Could you explain briefly?
Life in prison is very hard. You're confined inside, you don't meet your people, you don't meet your children, you're just inside. The food isn't terrible, but it's not like we could describe it as good either. While I can't say it's outright bad, but life in prison is hard. It is very hard.
And how is life now after being released?
I'm still struggling. I've just returned home and sold everything, so I'm starting from scratch. I don't know where to begin, and finding a job is challenging since there are no opportunities. I'm just trying to get enough for food.
What about the child? Has he started school, or how did you agree with the mother?
Currently the school is closed. I have 2 other children besides the one from that girl. So I have 3 kids in total. For the one child, I pay 40,000 shillings, and for the others, I have a girl in grade 8 and a boy in grade 4. So the 40,000 shillings is just for that one child, and others still need to be taken care of, including food and everything else. So right now I'm struggling and I haven't even started. I don't know where to begin.
Do you have any profession?
No, I don't have a profession.
What work were you doing?
I was working as a shop attendant.
When we came, we spoke with Madam Gachicho from the Legal Resources Foundation. She managed to get my brother to open up, which was a challenge because he's usually very quiet. I believe it was a blessing that she came into our lives. Without her, Joseph could have remained detained. He used to go to court and couldn't speak up, but Madam Gachicho made a difference. She spoke to him on a Monday, and by Tuesday, he was out of prison. We struggle to manage everything and are still unsure about what to do next. Joseph's previous work as a construction worker was unstable, and now he has no job or place to work. He is just at home.
You mentioned that he has a debt to pay.
Yes, the judge instructed him to return after 3 weeks with 2,700 Kenya shillings, and we don't know how we will manage to pay that amount. We are relying on well-wishers to contribute small amounts to help him.
How did this situation affect you as his sister?
It affected me a lot. I didn't even want to see that woman. But if it wasn't for Madam Gachicho, I would have lost my temper. By the way, it was Madam Gachicho who spoke to her, and I answered her a little bit and asked her, what if he dies right now? And I'm not saying he will, but this man doesn't have land. This land belongs to my mother. So what will you gain? Nothing. So, if you put him in prison, how will you manage? You sleep on a mattress while he sleeps on the floor. What are you doing for him? His kids are crying. His wife is crying. I'm not denying even this one is ours, and she's also crying. Isn't that boy in Form 1? You will want him to get circumcised. Where will he go? Won't he come to ask for help? Won't he come and ask his aunties to help him? Will we accept him? So, Madam Gachicho spoke to us. We forgave her. That same day we forgave her, and we have no grudge against her. We became friends, and she even said she will help out whenever possible. I don't know if she just said it or if she meant it, but she mentioned they will assist each other. For example, if she finds 50 shillings, she'll inform him that she has it. We are not sure if she was serious or just speaking, but anyway, that's what she said. And now, even he still doesn't have a job. He was released on Tuesday, but yesterday he stayed indoors the whole day. He doesn't have work, so you can see he's struggling. He'll need some time before finding work. And after 3 weeks, they expect him to have paid 3,700 Kenya shillings. We don't even know if he'll be asked to pay more next term. The court is forcing him to comply, and that's why I was saying, if possible, if he could just get a bursary or any help from somewhere, it will be great. Even if there's an organization like yours that can assist him, it will help, because as a family, we can't manage. I even have another brother in the same situation.
Your brother has also been arrested.
He's not been arrested, but he's also without a job, just like this one. My sister too, she's just at home without a job. So even if you tell her to contribute 10 shillings, you'll see that she has nothing to give.
You being involved in Joseph's journey, how has it changed your life? Were you employed or running a business?
I had a small business I was running, and now I had to close it because my daughter is in university. My last born is at Masinde Muliro University, so you see, I have responsibilities towards her. Right now, I'm stressed because she's returning. She was on attachment and is coming back in September. So you can imagine, I've closed down my business to deal with the issues. You know you can't have peace. I hadn't eaten until he was released. That's when I first felt hungry. I hadn't felt hunger at all before that. You see, he's inside, has never been arrested, and we didn't know what will happen next and where he was detained. Instead of being taken to Nakuru, he ended up in Eldama Ravine. You can imagine that fare to travel back and forth. I have no idea where he was getting the money to travel from there and back. I don't know, but now our work has been disrupted. Others closed their businesses and came here on Monday. And that Tuesday, we started talking about what we could do. By the way, those 4,000 shillings, even after selling items, it wasn't enough. A lady from the village added 1,000 so that we could reach the 4,000, because it had been said if we didn't reach that amount, he wouldn't be released. So we had to scramble around and seek help from people. You know how they say you need to rely on friends? Even those who were friends with your mother, they helped us. We managed to get the 4,000 and even his fare to return home. His wife came with others, and we've put in a lot of effort.
And how is your relationship with the child's mother since the incident?
It's not great. It's not great, but we're in the talking stages now since Madam Gachicho got involved. We've started communicating. It's not perfect, but right now when the child has a problem, she calls me to discuss it. and if I can help, I do.
And did the mother of the children know about the other woman, and how has it affected her?
She found out later.
After you were imprisoned?
Yes, after I was imprisoned. You see, at first, when I was reported, she had no idea. I used to wake up very early, like someone going to work, and I'd take all my files and hide them somewhere. I'd go to court, then in the evening I'd return the files to the hiding space. She only learned about everything when I was arrested. That's when she wanted to know what the problem was, because even when the court asked for a small amount, I couldn't provide it. They told me that they would detain me so that I could find the money while in the cell. And whatever little I got, I'd represent it before the court. That's when I called her and explained everything that was happening.